Is the Canadian dream becoming a nightmare? For years, Canada has been a beacon of hope for people worldwide, a land painted with the promise of prosperity and upward mobility. The Canadian dream, as it's often referred to, is built on the belief that anyone, regardless of their background, can climb the socioeconomic ladder through hard work and determination. This dream has been the fuel driving countless immigrants and even locals to strive for a better life in the land of the maple leaf. But as we navigate the waves of the 21st century, this once vibrant dream appears to be fading into the shadows of a growing nightmare. A series of harsh realities are beginning to undermine the ideal that has long been associated with the Great White North. While the Canadian dream has always been about the pursuit of happiness, the ability for individuals to better their lives, it seems that the scales are starting to tip. The promise of upward mobility is getting harder to achieve, and the prosperity that was once within reach is now becoming more elusive. At the heart of this shift are a number of challenges that are making life in Canada increasingly difficult. From the high cost of living to a housing crisis, from an overstretched healthcare system to dwindling job opportunities, the cracks in the Canadian dream are becoming more and more apparent. We must ask ourselves, is the Canadian dream still achievable? Or has it become a beautiful mirage, a tantalizing illusion that keeps receding the closer we try to get? These are not just rhetorical questions. They are issues that demand our attention, our consideration, and our understanding. And they are the questions that we will explore in this video. So buckle up, folks, as we take a journey to unravel the truth behind the Canadian dream, to understand whether it's still a reality or if it's slowly morphing into a fiction. So let's delve deeper into the challenges that are making life in Canada increasingly difficult. Have you ever wondered about the cost of living in Canada? The reality is, the cost of living in Canada has been soaring at a staggering rate. Let's start with housing. Over the past few years, home prices have been skyrocketing, making homeownership an unattainable dream for many. The average price of a home in Canada is now more than $500,000, a figure that's nearly doubled in the last decade. But it's not just about housing. The cost of everyday items like groceries has also been on the rise. A recent report found that the average Canadian family is expected to spend an additional $400 on food this year compared to last. It's a trend that's been steadily climbing, with food prices increasing by around 2 to 4% annually, and that's just the average. In some areas, the increase is even more pronounced. And let's not forget healthcare. While Canada is known for its universal healthcare system, the truth is, it doesn't cover everything. Prescription drugs, dental care, and vision care are just a few examples of the out-of-pocket costs Canadians face. In fact, a study from the Commonwealth Fund found that 1 in 5 Canadians did not fill a prescription or skip doses in the past year because of cost. These figures are not just numbers, they represent a real and growing struggle for many Canadians. Stories abound of families cutting back on groceries to make rent, or of individuals choosing between paying for medication and heating their homes. This is the reality of the high cost of living in Canada today. It's a complex issue with no easy solutions, but it's a conversation we need to have, as it affects the lives of millions of Canadians every day. As you can see, the cost of living is becoming a major hurdle for many Canadians. The affordability crisis is not just about dollars and cents. It's about the quality of life, the stress of making ends meet, and the dreams that are becoming increasingly out of reach for too many. It's about a country known for its quality of life, becoming a place where living has become a high-cost venture. Have you heard about the housing crisis in Canada? Just like a cold winter gust, the housing crisis in Canada is impossible to ignore. Over the last decade, the cost of housing has soared to unprecedented heights, leaving many Canadians out in the cold, metaphorically speaking. It's a chilling reality that's impacting people from Vancouver to Halifax, and all points in between. Imagine this. The average price for a single-family home in Toronto has skyrocketed from just over $500,000 in the early 2010s to a staggering $1 million plus today. And Vancouver? Well, it's not far behind. The rise in housing prices isn't exclusive to metropolitan areas either. Even in smaller towns and rural areas, the dream of homeownership is slipping away for many Canadians. But why is this happening, you might ask? The reasons are manifold. Record low interest rates, a lack of housing supply, increased demand, and speculative buying are all playing a part in driving prices through the roof. And this isn't just about buying a house. Renters are feeling the pinch too, with rental rates in many cities exceeding the cost of a mortgage. Now let's talk about affordable housing, or rather, the lack thereof. Affordable housing is defined as housing costs that are less than 30% of a household's before tax income. But in many Canadian cities, finding such housing is like finding a needle in a haystack. The scarcity of affordable housing is pushing lower and middle-income Canadians to the brink, forcing them to make tough choices between paying for food, medication, or a roof over their heads. It's a crisis that's leaving many Canadians homeless or on the verge of homelessness. The Canadian government has recognized the problem and has pledged billions to address the crisis. But the wheels of bureaucracy turn slowly, and for many Canadians, help can't come soon enough. With housing becoming increasingly unaffordable, many Canadians are struggling to find a place to call home. And with no end in sight, the question remains, how much worse will it get before it gets better? What about healthcare in Canada? Is it really free? Well, let's unpack that. Canada's healthcare system, known as Medicare, is funded by taxes and free at the point of use. This means that Canadian residents can visit a doctor or hospital without worrying about a hefty bill. Sounds great, doesn't it? But, as with anything, there's a catch. While the healthcare system in Canada is universally accessible, it's not without its challenges. One of the most glaring issues is the long wait times. Imagine you need a hip replacement or a cataract surgery. In Canada, you might wait for weeks or even months before you get the treatment you need. The clock doesn't just start ticking from the moment you're diagnosed. It starts from the moment you feel that first ache, that first sign, something's wrong. These long wait times aren't just inconvenient. They can exacerbate health conditions and cause undue stress. Let's take the case of Jane, a teacher from Ontario. She had to wait for 6 months to get her knee replacement surgery. During this time, her mobility decreased and her pain increased, affecting her ability to work and her overall quality of life. Another significant challenge within Canada's healthcare system is the shortage of healthcare professionals. This shortage isn't just about numbers, it's about the distribution of these professionals across the vast expanse of Canada. In urban areas, you might have a selection of doctors, but in rural areas, you might have to travel miles to see a specialist. Consider the story of John, a farmer from rural Saskatchewan. When he was diagnosed with a heart condition, the nearest cardiologist was over 200 miles away. The travel alone was a challenge, let alone the wait to see the specialist. These stories are not isolated incidents. They are indicative of a larger systemic issue within Canada's healthcare system. So while the healthcare in Canada may be free at the point of use, the cost can be counted in time, stress, and the potential worsening of health conditions. Clearly, even Canada's healthcare system, once a source of national pride, is facing serious challenges. So, is the Canadian dream becoming impossible? This is the question we've been grappling with throughout this video, and it's certainly not a simple one to answer. We've explored the soaring cost of living, painting a picture of a country where average incomes struggle to keep up with the rising prices for basic necessities. We've delved into the housing crisis, illustrating a panorama where affordable, decent housing seems like a mirage in the desert. We've also unpacked the challenges within the healthcare system, shedding light on the long waiting times and the difficulty in accessing quality care. These realities paint a somewhat grim picture of life in Canada today. They suggest that the Canadian dream, the idea that anyone, regardless of their background, can make a good life for themselves in this beautiful country, is becoming harder and harder to attain. For many, it seems, the dream is slipping through their fingers, becoming more of a fantasy than a feasible goal. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are potential solutions on the horizon and a growing awareness of the issues at hand. This awareness is the first step towards change. Canadians are resilient and innovative people, and there's a real sense of community and a desire to make things better. The government, for one, needs to step in to tackle these issues head-on. There's a need for policies that address the high cost of living, the housing crisis, and the issues in the healthcare system. There's a need for reforms that give everyone a fair shot at achieving their dreams. Moreover, it's not just about government action. It's about individuals, communities, businesses, and organizations stepping up too. It's about creating a culture of inclusivity, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. So yes, while it's clear that for many the Canadian dream is becoming increasingly difficult to achieve, it's not impossible. With awareness, action, and a collective will to make a difference, we can hope for a brighter, more equitable future. As we move forward, let's remember this. The Canadian dream may be challenged, but it's far from defeated. It's clear that for many, the Canadian dream is becoming increasingly difficult to achieve. But with awareness and action we can hope for a brighter future.